Hi, my name's Tom Taylor, and I'm chair of the Burnsville Fire Muster, and I'd like to welcome you to the 2012 Burnsville Fire Muster Fire Truck Parade. And as an annual event each year, we give out an award to one of the persons that has been influential in the firefighting industry or in public service of some sort. And this year we actually have two recipients. And first I'd like to introduce Walter Adams. And Walter, you have your career in firefighting goes quite a ways back to when was it?
Well, back in the 40s, believe it or not.
All right. And it was during World War II. You were a volunteer firefighter?
Yes, I was.
And where was that at?
In Manchester, Massachusetts.
Okay, and then your career kind of brought you to Minnesota at some point, and you actually served in the Burnsville public safety.
My wife was from Minnesota, so.
And then what years were you here in Burnsville?
I can't remember.
That's all right, but many years in the service. So, okay, well, we would like to award you this. This is a traditional bucket that goes back. This is handmade leather bucket, painted by Janet Lee, who has done these for many years, and this is in appreciation for your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and our second award goes to Tom Hanson. Tom has 24 years with the city of Burnsville. He was most recently as
Deputy City Manager for Operations.
And that included the
Fire Department and EMS services.
All right, and it was by unanimous consent by every single member of the Burnsville Fire Department that he received this award this year. So that speaks highly of the man. So, and we would like to award you as well with one of the honorary buckets. And thank you very much for your service.
Well, thank you very much, Tom.
All right,
and
thank you.
What a great day for a parade.
It is beautiful out. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, there we go.
Hi everyone, welcome to the 2012 Burnsville Fire Muster Fire Truck Parade, along with Burnsville Assistant Fire Chief Brian Carlson. I'm Chris Lidham. Thank you so very much for joining us here on Burnsville Community Television, Channel 14. And Brian, beautiful day for a fire truck parade, and whether you're 2 or whether you're 92, everybody likes fire trucks.
That's right. Couldn't have asked for a better day. People from all over the metro region have come around to see the different fire apparatus that have come out to join us today.
So our first one here is our parade Grand Marshal, Tom Hanson. He's in passenger seat. Fire Chief B.J. Jungman, the driver, you know quite well.
Yep, Chief Jungman has been in his position for about a year. He's enjoying this as a second fire muster event.
So being the Grand Marshal, and now here's the first part of the parade will be primarily the brigade from Burnsville Fire Department.
And Chris, this is actually our brand new Engine 2. We actually just took delivery of this truck about a couple of weeks ago. It's not even in service yet, so give us a couple of weeks and then you're going to be able to start seeing this on the road.
Now, talking about just having been not put in service yet, Brian, how long is an average service time for a fire truck?
Yeah, for our vehicles, usually it's about a 10-year cycle. So after about 10 years, they'll go into reserve status, and then 10 years after that, they'll actually come out of the department, and we'll trade them in and get a new one. So the vehicles have a lot of wear and tear from the calls that they go on. So Chris, this is our Burnsville Engine 1. And that truck's about 2 years old. And it's actually a sister truck to the new truck that we just took, so you might note that they look pretty similar.
Now, when you are purchasing or getting new vehicles for the fire department, what are some of the things that you look at in purchasing? Are you looking to, like, for example, you mentioned those two were sister trucks. Are you looking to replace one for the other, or is it based on what those fire trucks can do specifically.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with what they can do. What they can do specifically. We have some specific requirements for some of our trucks, and the needs of the department kind of varies with the apparatus. So some of our apparatus carry specific equipment, and so like those are both fire engines, and so they have some specific equipment versus some of our ladder truck or some of the other rescue trucks that we have. So Chris, this is actually one of our ambulances. That's our Medic 1. That's staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week here in Burnsville.
And how many different stations are there in Burnsville?
Yeah, we actually have 2 stations here in Burnsville, and those stations are staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365.
So, you can hear the sirens and the sounds in the background of a sound that's very familiar to anybody, that around a fire truck or around a fire station rather, and are there different sirens or different sounds on a fire truck based on what you're doing, or is it all just pretty even?
That's a great question. Yeah, actually, there's a couple of different kinds of sirens. Some of our older trucks actually have a mechanical. They call it a Q. And it's actually They actually have a foot pedal in the engine that they can pump up that siren and make some noise. But most of the trucks nowadays have electronic sirens, and they have a control inside the truck where they can actually control what sound it makes. And so usually the long wail is they use for when they're just driving down the street, and as they come close to an intersection, then they kind of turn it to that yelping noise, which for the sake of my own modesty, I won't try and imitate here on TV. So this is actually one of our older trucks. This is actually a Peterbilt fire engine. And so this is actually, we're in the process of replacing that particular fire engine.
How many total fire trucks are there in service for the city of Burnsville right now?
We use 2 as our primary vehicles. So those are staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then we have 2 fire engines that are reserved. So if one of them is out for mechanical reasons or if we're out for training. So the two for reserve.
Excellent. Great looks of the fire trucks here in the 2012 Burnsville Fire Muster Fire Truck Parade. Again, along with Assistant Fire Chief Brian Carlson, I'm Chris Liddell. Thanks for joining us here on Burnsville Community Television Channel 14. It's talked about great weather, and everybody loves these fire trucks. So
that's right. And what we're looking at here, what's just passing through here, is one of our brush trucks, and coming up actually here is also one of our mobile command posts. So this is kind of a neat looking vehicle. This is our command post that we share with the police and fire department, and for critical incidents we can actually dispatch from that vehicle. It has radio capabilities, it has a television camera where they can record from it, and so it's a neat piece of equipment.
So now coming into frame here in a moment will be our fire muster marshal, Walter Adams, who was a longtime Burnsville dispatcher, not just in Burnsville, but throughout the country. So he is our fire muster marshal, enjoying the ride here. We met his family earlier just before the parade, and so they're out here to support Walt, and get an opportunity to shake his hand and get to meet him as well. So
that's right. It's always nice it's neat to be able to meet people that served the city for so long and
absolutely
had so many years of service.
Now we're seeing Tim Ross on the button truck. This is a 1973 Persh engine. That's a Butte.
It is. It's neat to see kind of the evolution of fire trucks, and you'll notice that some of these older trucks, the style kind of changes throughout the years. This one's 1973, and you start to see them become more enclosed. The cab of them more enclosed, so you see the folks on here riding kind of in the back outside, and then for safety purposes, as we kind of came through the years, now everybody's, with safety requirements, are inside the cab. There's no more riding on the tailboards.
Right, absolutely. And so, great truck going by there. And on that truck there are part of Walt Adams' family. They hopped on the back. His wife there in the red shirt. So, they'll be sitting right behind Walt during the parade route. And might as well, hey, you're family of the marshal. Why not get to ride in the parade as well, huh?
Yeah, that's right. With great privilege, great privileges come to the fire marshal.
Absolutely, absolutely. This now is Jeff Shady's a collector. It's a 1988 Spartan, 106-foot ladder on that truck. It's originally from Seattle, Washington.
these trucks require quite a bit of upkeep. It's a pretty big chore to have one of these and have it in collector status, because I'll tell you, they got to keep them running and keep the equipment running on them, and it's quite a challenge. So hats off to a lot of these collectors.
Now here, Robert Seifrig, he's a collector. This is from the South Metro Fire Department. This is a 1988 Pierce Arrow engine. Now, you see them in different shapes. Like this one here, the Pierce Arrow engine, this truck is flat across the top. Any significance to that, where the others are staggered and bumps, I guess, or that type of thing?
I'll tell you, there is a number of different kinds of fire trucks, and really it kind of comes down to what type it is and who built it. And they're kind of like a unique snowflake. There's always different types and different looks to the fire engines and fire trucks.
Here we look at John Dolan's 1937 Dodge pumper truck.
And speaking of that, Chris, I got a pop quiz for you.
Okay.
What is the difference between a fire engine and a fire truck?
Fire engine and a fire truck?
It's a stump the announcer.
Yeah, well, you've done it. Congratulations, Brian. You've stumped the announcer. What is the difference?
So a fire engine, ladies and gentlemen, is what usually carries water and is primarily assigned to putting out fires. Fire trucks or ladder trucks generally are used to ladder into buildings and are usually used for rescue of people. And a lot of times they don't carry water. If they do, they carry a minimal amount.
The more you know.
There you go.
Excellent. There we look at Josh Grubb. He's a collector, the Minnesota Fire Engine Club, member of it. It's a 1986 Ford engine telesquirt 50-footer just passing through our screen. Now here is the new Brighton Fire Department, their 2009 General Safety Rescue engine.
So we're through some of the collectibles, and now we're kind of getting into a lot of the current apparatus that are in service.
Now, what would this truck from New Brighton, what would its primary function be?
It doesn't list on the side. This is probably just a fire engine. It's got hose on it, and they use it primarily for fire suppression. And there's a lot of pieces that go into firefighting. It's not necessarily just putting water on the fire. There's a lot of pieces that come into it. So a lot of these vehicles have some specialty uses to help accomplish that task.
There's a 1954 Mack pumper owned by John Manders. Bright yellow. And now, any significance to the colors?
Ooh, that's another good one. You're trying to stump me. Hey, no, it's really unique to each jurisdiction, and I'll tell you, there is again kind of unique snowflakes. There's lots of different colors of fire trucks and fire engines, and there really is no significant. It's kind of up to what each individual jurisdiction wants.
Here now is the Chaska Fire Department, their 2002 E1 Aerial. What is the, see the long ladder on top and the aerial box and such. What varying feet or distance that those can go up, or is it kind of standard?
It's pretty standard. Usually most of them are 100 feet or give or take some. So between 100 and 75 is usually how many feet they are, and that usually relates to the building size. So if you figure the setback and the ability to reach a 4 or 5 story building is really what they base it on.
There's a 1978 American LaFrance pumper, retired out of the Falcon Heights Fire Department. Nick Motters is the collector on that. Love that horn. I love that siren.
That is the Q siren, as it's called. Yeah, they're kind of the old traditional sound.
Here now is Rosemont Fire Department, brand new 2011 Rosenbauer pumper.
And that bright yellow truck, you can't miss that.
Not at all. If you miss it, you've got serious problems. So right at the beginning of the parade route at Civic Center Parkway and 134th, again with Assistant Fire Chief Brian Carlson. I'm Chris Lidholm, and we appreciate you being with us here on this beautiful, beautiful day for the Burnsville Fire Muster Fire Truck Parade on BCTV Channel 14. Up next is Chanhassen Fire Department number 15. It's their ladder 11. It's a 1989 LTI aerial platform.
I'll tell you, Chris, we always appreciate seeing all these different fire departments down here. We get a chance to work with our neighbors pretty closely, but it's always nice to see some of our neighboring communities that we may not get a chance to work with. It's always fun to see them come down, and we always appreciate it.
what kind of a working relationship, or what's the relationship between communities? Burnsville with Apple Valley or with Rosemont. How are those coordinated?
Yeah, we work pretty closely with our neighboring communities. Specifically Apple Valley, Egan, Lakeville, Savage, our surrounding communities, and we have regular meetings that our fire chiefs go to, and we coordinate a number of the resources. So we have a pretty close working relationship.
Here now, that's the House of Thune, 1946 Chevrolet 2-ton pumper.
It's interesting to think about the history of some of these fire engines and where they came from, and the number of emergencies that in their lifetime that they responded to. A lot of history and pride in those vehicles.
If these trucks could talk,
that's right.
That would be fantastic. Sit down and have conversations with a truck, I guess. But just to find out what they've experienced and what they've gone through in the past.
That's right. And a lot of these trucks laid the groundwork for a lot of our other the departments that are out there. This truck from Savage, for example, is the original, probably some of the original equipment that came from there.
That's the Savage Fire Department, 1952 Dodge bumper. Another just beautiful trucks, kept in great condition here throughout the years.
Yep.
And then coming right behind the Dodge bumper, and again for the Savage Fire Department, will be the 1965 Jeep grass rig.
See,
explain the use of the grass rig.
And I was just going to say, here's part of the fun part of being a firefighter is you get these really neat vehicles to ride in. Everything from a big ladder truck with a 100-foot ladder on it, and then you have something like this, a Jeep. So this Jeep is probably something that they would have used, and there's some stuff that the departments that still use some vehicles like this, mostly for fires in wooded areas that don't have access, that the fire engines can't get access to.
I mean, when we're all growing up, we want to be a fireman. And then when you become a fireman, you don't have to really grow up because you get these great toys that you get to play with and be a part of on the big trucks and all of that type of stuff.
That is right.
So here now is the Excelsior Fire District 2002 Pierce engine. An E11, so it's you can see all the different gauges on the side. Tell us a little bit about what each of those gauges are representing.
Yeah, so a fire engine, what a fire engine is think of it like a big pump. So water comes in from the fire hydrant, it goes into the fire engine, and then that fire engine actually boosts the pressure. So what those knobs do is essentially it helps to control the pressure, and then actually from the fire engine, those levers and numbers control which water the hose is going to.
Excellent. Up next here is a 1936 Buffalo pumper, owned by Greg Runquist. Beautiful machine from 1936.
That's interesting. You see the people hanging on to the back there, and you can see the gentleman hanging on there, and that's how they used to ride back in the day. Was they would grab on board and go for a ride.
Grab on board, say a prayer, and
that's right.
Be on their way. Here now is a 1935 Buffalo pumper, Nick Torini, the collector. Again, it's great to see these machines from 1935, 1936 kept in running condition, and it's people who grew up with the admiring fire trucks and fire department and stuff, able to really take in and enjoy these. Again,
it's almost a look back in time, isn't it?
Very much so. The South St. Paul Fire Department. Young fire person in training. So, hey, you start out young and you want to start, grow up to be it. Here now is our fire truck from the Farmington Fire Department. Now this is white and blue. We've seen primarily yellow and red. Again, it's just department by department decides what they want.
That's right. Yep. So it is really unique, and for some people it's tradition and history. And their trucks have always been a certain color, so they continue to do that year after year, and every department's a little bit different.
So now we're taking a look at the Lake Johanna fire truck, 2012 Rosenbauer engine. Is there a type of fire truck that's more popular, a brand name type of thing? Like you've got your Fords and your GMC stuff. Is there one for a fire truck that's more popular that you think?
There is, and that's Pierce. Pierce and E1 are kind of the big players on the market that are out there, and we've seen a couple of those, both new and some of the older antique fire trucks were of those brand also. So we've kind of seen the transition from the 40s and 50s up until the current.
Here we see now St. Anthony Fire Department, Dan McNulty on board. It's a 1972 Ford L9000.
The Boy Scout troop looking happy to be here with their cool fire helmets on.
Happy to always. It's always fun to ride in the back of a fire truck. I grew up watching Emergency, and I always wanted to be either Gage or DeSoto. It didn't matter which, but hey, it's always a good time. Everybody wants to be a fireman when they're growing up, and some, like yourself, Brian, get to be one as a grown-up.
There you go, and never have to grow up, right?
That's very true.
As we've already established.
Here's Dan Hendrickson on a 1981 retired fire engine from the Burnsville Fire Department.
And Dan Hendrickson is actually one of our retired firefighters. So it's nice to see that fire engine every year because it's been out of service for a couple of years, and so it's always nice to see that.
Up next there is the Savage Fire Department, a 2006 Spartan engine.
Again, Savage is one of our neighboring communities that we work closely with.
What is the guideline as to when you call in neighboring communities? Is it once you get to a certain, the fire gets to a certain level, a certain alarm, number of alarms, is that when you start calling them in?
That is correct, yeah. So usually if it's a structure fire, whether it's a house fire or a building or of that sort, is usually, it requires a lot of resources, and so usually we'll call in our neighboring communities, and our neighboring communities are good about sending help our way.
Such as the city of Apple Valley. This is a 2000 HME ladder truck. Making its way around. And another neighboring community, Lakeville. The fire department, the 2007 LaFrance aerial ladder, number 1. Now we see the tank on the side of the ladder for breathing air. Is because of the height that it goes up, or you need to take it into the fire? What is the use of that?
Yep, and actually what that allows them to do is if there's firefighters on the top of the ladder, they're 100 feet in the air, they can plug directly into a inlet to breathing air up on the top of the ladder. So if they don't have to breathe smoke, so they can actually be in their SCBA mask and actually be up there on air.
There you see the Lakeville Fire Department's 2006 Peterbilt engine number 3. Making its way around the bend here at Civic Center Parkway and 134th, where we're located. Along with Assistant Fire Chief Brian Carlson, I'm Chris Ledome, thanking you for being a part of this beautiful day. It's the 2012 Burnsville Fire Muster Fire Truck Parade on BCTV Channel 14. And the Vulcan crew has made their way to the Fire Muster Parade.
No parade is complete without the Vulcans, right?
Absolutely not.
Always an entertaining group.
Very much so. Always out to have fun and cause a little trouble at the same time.
What's a parade without a little bit of mischief, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Howie Register, 1962 International Pumper. More of the Vulcans on board here.
Looks like the Vulcan family, maybe.
Vulcans on a 1932 Laverne fire truck. The King, True Volcanus Rex, was on that. Now the New Germany Fire Department, again part of the Vulcan crew as well. Up next, Egan Fire Department, brand new Jeep brush truck. There you see.
Another one. It looks remarkably similar to the older fire brush truck that we saw.
Absolutely, yeah. So brush trucks used, because there's a lot of the grassland and such. Burnsville does not have a grass truck like that, or does it?
Not one that looks like that, but we do have something that can go off road. So it's not as neat as that one. It's sporty,
Gotcha.
but
All right. Here now, Egan Fire Department. Again, 2012 Pierce Snozzle.
so if you can see the tip of that,
Nozzle.
you can see that there's they call it the snozzle there. It's actually got a penetrating nozzle on it, so that is a pretty neat feature that can actually focus water through the tip of that. Kind of a neat piece of equipment.
I said snozzle, and I thought I read it wrong. I thought it was a nozzle, but in fact it is a snozzle. So
Had to read that twice. You thought you sneezed?
Yes. Here now is Don Lavoie and Don Huizenga. 1970 Ford C900, 1,500-gallon tanker truck.
And a very well-behaved Dalmatian on top.
Absolutely. Just sitting very, very still.
He is. I mean, it's a well-trained dog.
Another beautiful classic coming into frame here. Carver Fire and Rescue, 1927 GMC pumper.
Chris, I think is that the oldest truck we've seen so far?
That is.
And it's beautiful condition too.
Again, kept in great shape.
One of the interesting things, if you look at that, is it's actually got the old wood ladders on it. Back in the day, they used to use wood a lot for ladders as opposed to composite material that we use now.
So another classic coming into frame here at the intersection of Civic Center Parkway and 134th. It's the South Metro.
We've got some antique fire helmets on there too as well. I'm not sure what.
Here now in the South Metro Fire Department, 2011 Pierce 75-foot ladder truck.
South Metro, one of our fellow Dakota County departments, cities of South St. Paul and West St. Paul. Well, I've seen the big trucks.
Right, now we're going even bigger.
Now it's time for the big trucks.
These are some classics.
I don't know, I think the Burnsville Fire Department should maybe invest in some of these.
I think so, at least for the smaller fires.
Maybe I could get one of those for my chief car. It would be.
We'll talk to people. We'll help you out with that, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll get you set up.
You are a well-connected man. I'm certain if anybody can pull it off, you can.
See, well, just right there, nameplate on the side. Assistant Chief Carlson. Work out perfectly. So, just another beautiful truck here. Just a classic ladder truck. And very fitting on the side, jewel. And in fact, it is a jewel when you come to the history of firefighting.
Absolutely.
So that'll do it here. Some great fire trucks, throughout the parade here, young and old. Ones for everybody, from whether you, like I said, growing up back in the day, you saw ones that were out and about during your youth, and now we've got some brand new ones. So from 1927 to 2012, we're seeing them all.
Absolutely, and some of the biggest trucks and down to the littlest ones. So
yeah, very much.
Yes, absolutely. So we're fortunate with some good weather and able to view some of our neighboring departments and some of our antiques.
Yeah, everybody getting involved, and we want to thank you for being involved in this broadcast. For Assistant Fire Chief Brian Carlson, I'm Chris Lidholm, and for our entire BCTV crew, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this 2012 Burnsville Fire Muster Fire Truck Parade.